Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Rare Humans podcast. I'm Jack, and this is my co host, Kevin. And we talk about how to thrive in today's day and age with a complex biology. Our special guest today is a friend of mine named Austin Scott. Austin and I met in Toronto. He is a type 1 diabetic. He was introduced to me by another type 1 diabetic, and he's got a pretty incredible story of like being down in the dumps, poorly controlled diabetes, and then flip switched. Now he's super dialed, 90% in range. Kind of crazy. So, Austin, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you on, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure.
98% in range. We're gonna have to figure that one out. That's
Yeah.
that's another for all you type ones, man. You guys are all sitting there feeling bad about yourselves. Don't. Austin's gonna share his secrets with us. So great to have you, Austin. Austin is our first guest. For those of you that have been following us, you just been bored to death listening to me and Jack go back and forth about our stories. Now we have our first guest, Austin. We're super excited to have him. And we're just going to dive in. And, we all are rare humans here. I mean, even as a type 1, in North America, you're at, under 1.5 million people. Obviously, you're hearing more about type 1, but, the 50 million people are mostly that we hear about are type 2s and dealing with resistance. So being a rare human, I think it'll be great to hear Austin and kind of see how he kind of got to where he is now and how he took control of what he his diagnosis. So Austin, first question I have for you is, what did life look like when you remember, because you were 5 years old, before you really felt like you took control of your diabetes?
Yeah, great question. Life was so weird for me. I look back, I even was looking at photos the other day of food on my phone, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, I would have given no insulin for that back in the day. And now I'm like, that's like a 6-unit, 7-unit meal. So it's really funny to look back on that experience. And when I think about childhood, when you're diagnosed as a kid, your parents take care of your diabetes for you, right? It's really passive as a child because your parents are the ones giving you the injections. They're the ones feeding you the meals. They're doing the carb counting. They're doing the math. And by the time I went off to university, to give everybody a sense of my age and where technology was, there was no CGM in my first year of university. I went off to college and I did what every person does when they go to college. I drank, I ate, I didn't think about my diabetes. I didn't want to associate with it. And then the first CGMs came out. And it was really weird to apply the Dexcom G5. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It looks like this medieval torture contraption that you have to put on. And I remember I put one on for the first time, and this thing would give me alarms every 5 minutes. And I was like, what is this? Why is this how is this any better than the peace of mind I had before? And so for like 10 straight years, I just never wore CGM. My clinic, it got to the point actually where my doctor, my endo, pulled me aside and said, Austin, I'm worried about you. I went into that appointment and I said, cool. Left the appointment and said, don't really care that she's worried. I'm worried about myself too. Like there was no point in any of that process where I was like, I need to be in better control. It wasn't what anybody had to say. It wasn't the fact that I felt like crap every single day. Nothing changed until I was willing to make the change, if that makes sense. And through that process, it's been insane. It's been insane to look back and go, I didn't really care. Before taking control, I would eat a meal and my friends didn't even really think I had diabetes. There was no part of me that associated with the word diabetes. We'd go to a meal, I'd eat whatever I wanted, didn't carb count, didn't give an injection. And now I look back on it and I'm like, that's insane. Now we go to meals, I'm sitting there carb counting on the menu before we even leave to go to the restaurant. I'm pre-planning the game plan. Like it's a completely different life, but it's also so gratifying in the sense that I know I'm doing right by my body after 10 years of not caring at all.
Yeah.
That's a good reminder too, because you guys were so young. And Jack, I know you'll comment on this, is one of my best friends, he got it at 5, and he talks about that, what you just talked about, which is almost being like ashamed and just kind of wanting to be a normal person. And, who wants to be different, right? And,
Yeah.
Just going to dinner, no one even knew you were a type 1, right? I mean, that's such a different feeling than like me getting it a little bit later in life. Jack, because you had it since you were 2, right?
Yeah. Same as
So I'm sure you had the same.
Yeah. I was like scared to pull out my devices, like my insulin pen in front of people, like my friends at dinner. I don't know. I was just like ashamed and I was scared of what they would say and think. And like, I had one kid in high school say to me, insulin pens isn't the only thing Jack shoves in his body. Just like, people say like bad things. And like, that is one of the reasons people say bad things, because you're different. They don't understand it. And they're like, oh, that's a quick shot. Easy. But just to give people some context, CGM is a continuous glucose monitor. So it's always telling you where your blood sugars are, which as a diabetic is incredible, which as a regular person, frankly, is incredible too. Because nice, well done. Austin, are you on 5.6 or are you on 140 or whatever? Are you on millimoles per liter?
I'm on at 5.6, so MMML.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Damn Americans. We just cannot get the metric system down, you guys. I apologize.
Yeah. Continuous glucose monitor, amazing for diabetics, amazing, frankly, for anybody who just wants to know more about their body.
Game changer.
Endo is an endocrinologist, and the endocrine system is your hormones essentially. So that's like very type 1 talk. But yeah, growing up as a type 1, I think I'm the same trajectory as Austin. So I'll just kind of let you continue on there.
Yeah. When I was 28 as a type 1. And so I'd be wherever, I'd be like, I was like,
yeah.
But it's funny talking to my buddy. He didn't have a bracelet or any identification. And we as we work through that, now he's on the Dexcom, Jack, Cameron.
Yeah.
And now he's on the pump. But it took me years to get him on the Dexcom. And then it took me another 5 or 6 years to get him on a pump. And because he was just so used to free flowing. Right. And he didn't wear a bracelet. No one knew he was a type 1. I'm like, dude, you're going to pass out one day. No one's going to know what is going on with you.
Yeah.
You get
my mother harped on me. Still does. Yeah.
So Austin.
You have a medical alert, Austin?
So do I wear a medical alert? I don't, but I have one on my Apple Watch. Here, I can show you.
Oh, yeah.
It's on my Apple Watch right here.
Me too.
That's the only one I wear.
Cool.
And I have a pump on. I feel like if I passed out in public, the pump, the CGM being on my body, if you couldn't put 2 and 2 together, I'm screwed anyways. So
yeah. Fair.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is a firefighter, and he said first thing they do when they come to you is they test your blood sugar right away.
Yeah, that's a standard.
They're gonna see. So Austin, question for you is, telling us your story, not even taking an injection when you go to eat and, living that lifestyle. What was that moment, or was there a moment where you kind of just said, you know what, this is ridiculous. I need to really change and get on top of this.
Yeah, it's funny. I think back a lot to what it was, and I think it was a buildup of a million different things. It was always in my head. I would always say, tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow's the day I'm going to be in control, and then tomorrow would come and go, and the day never came. But I think one day I got sick, and I was stuck in bed, and this is kind of getting into a dark spot, so this is going to be a warning for some people. But I was sitting in bed, and I thought to myself, this isn't the life I deserve or want for myself. Do I really want to be in 20 years from now going to get dialysis every couple of weeks or whatever the schedule would look like? Do I want to lose a limb? Do I want to lose an eye? Do I want to lose a finger? Because that was the path I was on. I wasn't willing to accept that. And then one day I had this dark, deep thought where I was like, no, I don't want to die at 30 or live a terrible life when I'm 30 till I'm 50. And I always thought diabetes will take my life and it'll be whatever. I had 30 great years where I pretended I didn't live with this condition. And then I went on social media and I watched people live normal, happy, fulfilling, long lives. Exactly what we're doing on this podcast, speaking about our experiences. And I was like, wait, you can live a normal life and have diabetes. You can eat your favorite foods and do the things you love. It's just a matter of putting in a little bit of effort to get there. And so one day I challenged myself. I said, just take it day by day. Whatever every day throws at you, do the best you can do. And over the course of 2 years, I took myself from, I think it was 8% time in range to now 96% consistently. And it's small effort every day. It wasn't a magic flip of a switch overnight. It was, I need to do better. I deserve better. I want better for myself. And so it was those small little lifestyle changes. Everybody thinks it's this dramatic transformation overnight. That it wasn't that. It was small, gradual, learning more about myself, my body, the way I respond to exercise, stress, sleep, the millions of things that affect blood sugar that brought me to a point now where I am so confident. I had a bagel this morning, and I'm just going to show you both. My graph, look how flat that, I don't know, hold on. Can you see that? Look how flat that graph is for a bagel.
Insane.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it just comes down to if you know and you eat the same, I eat the same 30, 40, 50 different things, you start to learn. You learn where to improve, I did an extended bolus for this over 2 hours. You learn what your body needs and adapts to it. And so I think that's the biggest thing is I say to people all the time, it's not laziness for me. It wasn't laziness. It was just, I simply didn't know where to start. And that was the hardest part.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I was at a lecture last Thursday with a guy named Reza Satchu. The long and short is he's a very successful, very accomplished, very wise man. He's a professor at Harvard. And he said to me, Jack, failure is a privilege. If you never fail, you'll never get the opportunity to learn from said failure and grow. And so, you know, our pancreas has failed on us. And the perspective, and then perspective is everything I've come to learn, you know. Perspective in the beginning is, fuck, pardon my French. The perspective in the beginning is like, this sucks, my life sucks, why me, woe is me. But then it's like, no, this is a superpower. Like, my body failed. I learned how to overcome it. And wow, look at me now, you know? Taught you, I bet you so much about yourself as it taught me so much about myself. And yeah, no, it's great.
That resilience, because I'm older than you guys, right? So I'm in my mid 40s, right? That resilience, you guys, is a superpower. Jack, you said it perfect. It's a freaking superpower, because when people go through hard things in life, which we all invariably do, they do not affect us like they do other people, those hard things, because we've already gone through the hardest thing, which is honestly survivability, surviving.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we're all alive and that we haven't passed out in our sleep, that we haven't gotten so high we went into diabetic ketoacidosis and died from it, right? The fact that we're all here thriving. Other people deal with stuff in life, and maybe we can even speak to this, you guys, that grittiness and resilience. And this isn't like, oh, we're so great. It's just we, the three of us, probably many times have all been up at 3 a.m. at the same time before we knew each other, covered in sweat, squirting maple syrup down our, a little ode to Canada, squirting maple syrup down our throat, wondering when the hell we were ever gonna be normal and be able to get a full night's sleep without being covered in sweat and having to wake up and jump out of bed covered in sweat, right?
Yeah. Especially when you're like young. Like, I remember when I was like 17, 18, 19, and like going out, because I'm from Montreal, so like the drinking age is 18, and with a fake ID you were pretty easily getting in a lot of places. I remember like being, you know, 17, 18, 19, and like I'd go out drinking with friends, and like, yeah, I'd wake up sweating at like 3 a.m, and I'm thinking to myself, like, this isn't fair. Like, I just want to be able to sleep and like be like hungover. But like, for you, I don't drink anymore. It's been 8
I just want to be hungover.
But like, you know, our hangovers were so much worse, especially when you're compounding, like waking up in the middle of the night being super low, or like not waking up but being like sky high all night, and then you wake up and you're like
That's actually what happened the other day. My Dexcom failed at 3 a.m. Funny enough, Kevin, that you're saying 3 a.m. 3 a.m, absolutely the only time my Dexcom ever fails, of course. Fails at 3 a.m, not connected to my pump. I wake up, I'm the highest I've been in months. Like, I haven't been very high in over, I think like 2, 3, 4 months even. I was like 16. I was so high, I was parched. I woke up and I was like, the world feels like crap right now. I feel like I was hungover. Like, I felt like I had a binge drinking night the night before. And it was simply just because my blood sugar was a little high for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And you'd love to wake up. You'd love to just text everyone and say, I'm taking tomorrow off. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I just need to sleep till like noon the next day, right? And that's the thing, right? Like, as diabetics, we'll have nights like that, and then we're up at 5 a.m. because we have something going on, or life, or whatever. And like I said, I think it's very difficult to sit there and suck your thumb as a type 1. And I think a lot of people do that. I think their comfort zone pulls back to like, almost like that self-sabotage where they just kind of go insulated, and, you know, and when things are going wrong, I think for all of us,
instinct,
we're just so used to dealing with our shit that we just deal with it. So when things go wrong, right, we adapt very quickly. We had no option. And we don't have stuff go on every month or every other month. Like, we've had times in our life where it went on every day, right? Where you had highs and lows and this, and, you know, you're on a hike with your friends and you're eating sugar and you know, it's like there's no break, right? Yeah. So Austin, I wanted to ask you, like, you said you had a bagel as an example, because there's going to be type 1s listening.
I'm so curious.
Yeah, you said you had a bagel and I saw that flatline. Now, me, that would never happen.
Me neither.
So, and I would love to hear your strategy on a 60 grams of carbs bagel or whatever it was? What did you put on it? Why did you extend it? Give us like your game plan on that for people that look at that in awe.
Yeah, for sure. I think number one, the thing I realized is like food is our friend always. I'm never going to be against any, like, listen, everybody has their own path. You want to eat low carb, you want to eat high carb, mid carb, do whatever you want to do, but recognize that you always have power in terms of your relationship with food. What I mean by that is I choose to eat something like a bagel. I know the repercussions of that. That is a high carb item. It is probably going to spike the hell out of me if I don't do something smart. So I pair it with fats. I put some avocado on it just to give it something to kind of buffer the carbs. And then at the same time, I also paired it with some protein. I had some Greek yogurt with it. And so that relationship between the fat, the protein, and now having this bagel, it was also a protein bagel. So it was 50 grams of carbs and 20 grams of protein in the bagel. That automatically with the protein from the Greek yogurt, with the fats from the avocado, like all of that gave me this recipe for success. Doesn't mean I can't eat a bagel with just some butter on it or some peanut butter or whatever you want to throw on one. It just means that if I'm going to choose to indulge in foods I love, I just have to be a bit smarter about it. That also means that my pre-bolus is 20 minutes before I choose to eat it, and I will wait the 20 minutes. A lot of people won't, but I say this to my clinic all the time. I would rather wait 20 minutes to eat something I enjoy than be sitting there high for 4 hours trying to bring the high down. Like 20 minutes is worth the exchange of the 4 hours. So for me, it's like, I'll just do what I have to do. And then on top of that, I extend my bolus because I know I gave myself some fat. There's some protein. It's going to hit me a lot longer than just a straight up bagel would. So now I've given myself this insulin over 2 hours. Now, none of this, if you're listening and you're like, Austin, that sounds like a lot of math. I didn't learn how to do this overnight. I ate bagels for weeks and failed and was high as a kite every single time I ate a bagel. It was through slow strategy changes, slow manipulation of all the variables that led me to this point where I can eat a bagel and know I'm going to stay in range. The other thing is I'm not afraid to give more. I don't care if I have to give 2 extra units today because our bodies are funny. It's not going to be the same every day. And so if I see myself even slightly creeping up, hammer the insulin. Why not? Worst case, I have to pick up a juice box and drink a little bit of juice on top of the bagel. Best case, I stay in range. Like to me, there's no losing. I think a lot of people are afraid of lows, and I was personally, that was my biggest fear. But once you get past that, you're like, a juice box will settle this every single time.
Sure.
And Austin, you just hit my thing. I feel like I under bolus quite often. Every time I see my endocrinologist, he's like, dude, you're under bolusing, because I think I have that fear. Like I'd rather run 200 for a few hours than crash and it just like absolutely ruin whatever I'm doing. And I think that probably comes from, all the crashes we've had and how terrible you feel when you crash. So give me an idea, because I'm curious, Austin, give me the strategy on the pre-bolus, because that's something I've never done before. Jack, I don't know if you have. I don't want to get too in the weeds, but people that have gotten this far in the podcast are probably type 1s. So give me an idea, like give me the exact setup you did today on that pre-bolus and then the extended bolus and how that worked for you.
Yeah, so I think number one, if you're afraid of going low, people are always so afraid of insulin and giving it, and the pre-bolus scares people because they're like, why am I giving myself insulin before I'm even eating? That seems counterintuitive to what the point of insulin is. But what I learned for my specific body, because you give yourself insulin, you have a CGM, you can see the effect. Insulin does not even start to think about doing its job until about 15 minutes after I've given it. And when I say doing its job, I mean, it's doing the bare minimum. It's had a lazy day. It hasn't even, it's just clocked in. It hasn't even begun to do its actual job. And so when I in the past, when I was low, I would be afraid to give a pre-bolus. And now I'm like, doesn't matter. That insulin's not doing anything I have 15 minutes on top of that insulin. And so what I started doing was I would slowly just start 10 minutes first, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. But I will tell you this, that 15-minute pre-bolus, it has allowed me to eat so many things I thought were off the table for me, simply because I am giving insulin the head start it needs to do its job. And so again, people are afraid. People are like, I can't believe, Austin, you're going to give yourself 6 units this morning and you're not even going to touch a bagel for another 25 minutes. Aren't you afraid of going low? No, because that bagel is filled with starches and carbs and it wants to spike my blood sugar. So essentially, this is a race where if I let the bagel do its thing, it's going to win every single time. I'm giving insulin that shotgun head start in the race so that by the time that bagel wants to do its thing, the insulin's already ready to do its job. And so I think for a lot of people, it comes down to physiology. You just have to try it. You have to learn. You have to experiment. And you have to be willing, to Jack's point, you have to be willing to fail. Life is failure. You have to be willing to fail a little bit on this road of diabetes in order to learn. And so with the bagel, I tried the 15-minute pre-bolus. It didn't work. I kept spiking. Okay, it's not the insulin. Maybe it's me. 20 minutes. 20 minutes was it was the sweet spot.
Nice.
And my last point on this, not to harp too long, but just so if everybody's like,
Yeah.
how do I know when to do a 15 versus a 20? When I
Yeah.
gave mine at 15 minutes, I would spike temporarily, but then come back into range. That is a sign. And if I didn't have to give extra insulin, that's a sign that the insulin is mismatched. I'm coming back into range. It's just not quick enough. So that
Mhm.
means I have to give the insulin ahead of. So the 20 minutes is so that I stay in range because it's working quick enough.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing for me is like, it's so nuanced. If I've just done like a power lift, I'm going to go up and then I'm going to be incredibly insulin sensitive later. And if I've just done a run, I'll probably be super insulin sensitive for the hour post run. And then the insulin sensitivity will kind of like decrease 50% for the remainder of the day. If I'm, super activated and stressed, so to speak, my insulin resistance will be up. So it's so nuanced. That's why I eat low carb. It's like super easy for me to control. It's like less insulin equals more stability for me. But one thing that I just want to touch on here that I hear you, Austin. Like there are a lot of higher carb foods that it gets to a point where you know how to work it. And I think as a type 1 diabetic, it's all about routine. Like if you can really dial something in, it becomes very easy and or not easy, but easier to understand and to predict. When you're eating a higher carb meal, is the rest of your environment very controlled? You're like, okay, I know that I'm not going to be moving for the next 2 hours. That's how the insulin's going to hit me. And for that reason, I am confident eating it. Whereas, like, let's say it's like Sunday at 11 a.m. and you're going for a coffee with your friends and like there's a bagel at the cafe. Are you going to be like, oh, yeah, I'll eat the bagel right now because like I know how to bolus for it. But like, let's say after the cafe, you leave the cafe and you end up going for a 2 hour long walk instead of just like sitting there and watching the world go by. Like, you know what I mean? There's so many different like contexts that
Yeah, I think a lot of people with diabetes are afraid of losing spontaneity, especially when you have to give a big bolus for something and then you're like, well, what are the next 2 or 3 hours going to look like? I mean, listen, we're humans, we're creatures of routine. I can guarantee you if I asked you both right now, what are you doing with the rest of your day? You would probably have a bit of an answer. Maybe not the perfect answer, but you'd have a semblance of what your plan is for the rest of the day. What I say to people is, listen, if I give a big bolus and now all of a sudden my friend's like, let's go to the grocery store, let's walk the aisles. That wasn't on my agenda, but now I have 7 units on board and you want to go ring-a-roll around every aisle in Loblaws. We can do that.
Mad dash sprints down every aisle.
Yeah. Right. Like we could do that if you want, but that just means that I know I'm going to have to bring a juice box. I'm probably going to have to be a little bit more like you can still do those things. It just means now I know that I'm probably going to have to front load a couple extra carbs that I'm not going to give myself insulin for to protect myself from that drop. So I think ultimately it just everything with diabetes is just knowledge, like literally everything. It comes down to, do you know what to do in those situations? And if you're in a new one for the first time, it's a bit of a guess, shoot and learn, and you'll hope for the best the next time, right? So that's how I look at it is like, you're never going to be perfect. We can't be perfect. Otherwise we would be pancreases and we're not. So the way I look at it, trial and error, baby. That's the way you win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a good reminder because I think something, if you look at content on type 1, you see a lot of what we've been talking about, right? Bolusing and working out and low carb and mid carb and high carb and how people kind of manage it. But what we don't talk about a lot is the mental side of the game, right? And if you look at sports or you look at anything, the greatest ever were not the best athletes per se. They were the greatest mentally. And I think type 1, I think it's worth noting that type 1 is such a mental game. I always explain it to people as one of the very few 24-hour diseases with no break, right? Even if you're fighting cancer, even if you're fighting for your life, you can go to sleep and probably be fine and not have to think about the chemo you're going to get the next day. But us three, there's never a time we go to bed without knowing exactly if we're in range and what's going on from there. And probably there's not a lot of times we wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom that we don't check our blood sugars and see where we're at. I remember before I got on the closed loop system, because of my Dexcom and my Omnipod now kind of control everything, which really for the first time in my life, I really don't even have to look at my numbers in the middle of the night because they talk to each other and keep me in range. But for all those years before, you wake up at 3 a.m. to go to the bathroom and you're 300, right? Yeah. So, or you're 62 and you're not going to make it until 7 a.m. to wake up. So you got to ingest some sugar or juice box. The smell of room temperature apple juice from those little boxes makes me want to vomit. I'm like, you know, from all those years of, you know, sucking those down in the middle of the night. So Austin, you know, how were you able, because you had it so young, like Jack, what do you feel like was the biggest game changer for you in just getting your mindset right? Like you had that epiphany and then, yeah, you started making changes, but how did you keep this moving forward to be able to get where you are now in range 98% of the time, et cetera, and really get your mind right and stay focused on that task through all the crazy stuff that life hits you with?
Yeah, I think, the number one thing I always try to remind myself is there's seasons to diabetes management. Like, it's okay if I'm perfect for a month and then I fall off the wagon a little bit, because that's life. Like to your point, Kevin, there's nothing on planet Earth that expects us to be perfect 24/7. My job doesn't ask that of me. My relationships don't ask that of me. My friends certainly don't expect me to be perfect. So why do I hold diabetes to that standard? But at the same time, it was really important to me that these are the cards I've been dealt. I can be the worst diabetic on planet Earth. That is not going to change the fact that I am still diabetic. And if anything, not caring about my diabetes affects one human on this planet, and one human only, and that is me. And there is only one human who can sit in the driver's seat. My parents, my friends, my family, my coworkers, they can all beg me to be better. Like my endo basically sat me down and said, you need to do better. But it doesn't matter until you care enough, because you are in the driver's seat of your life. And the sooner you realize that, especially with diabetes, the better off you will be, because I can be as upset about this diagnosis, as mad at it as I want to be, as resentful as I want to be. And there have been moments where those are the emotions that take over, but that does not serve me long term. That does not help Austin or future Austin. It doesn't change my situation. Being upset about it is valid. Being resentful about it is valid. Being angry at the situation is valid. You can have those moments. I can live in those moments. I certainly have those days, but there is no point in dwelling on that, because dwelling on it only keeps me locked up and doesn't actually serve me long term. And so I try to remind myself that every day. We can only control what we can control. And the number one thing we all have the power to control is mindset. Now, of course, obviously, like depression and other things, that makes it a lot harder. And I'm speaking from a place of a bit of privilege here, because I have support, I have access to the systems, the security that I need to make this more manageable. But at the same time, I try to remind myself, like, mindset is everything. And with diabetes, as you mentioned, Kevin, it is a mental game. And so if I want to have the last laugh in 20 years from now, I'm going to do everything I can to say diabetes didn't win this one. I did.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Nice. Yeah.
Love that.
It's just so important to me. Like, mental health is such a big part of diabetes care, and we all choose to ignore it. If I can give one piece of advice to everybody out there, and Kevin and Jack, I'm sure this will, you'll both be like 100%. Community around diabetes makes a difference. You have all the friends in the world and family members, but until you know somebody who lives with it, nobody truly understands what this is like every single day. Nobody.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
I heard a guy speaking last week. My fiance showed me the TikTok video of the guy. He was basically saying, like, a low blood sugar will take me out for 2 days. Like, and you guys agree, like, when you go low, like, it takes you a long time to recover from a bad low. Yep. Nobody knows that walking down the street. You're the only one who's going through that. You're the only one who can really understand that. And yeah, mindset, perspective, like the ability to, Austin, what you were saying earlier, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Like, you'll own it when you own it. And for that reason, for me anyways, like, I used to look at people and think to myself, like, oh, I wish you could just like change this. Like, it would make you so much more better off. But at the end of the day, like, it's to each their own. And like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. When they drink, it's going to be amazing, but it's not your place to like go in there and be like, yo, change everything you're doing, because what you're doing is wrong. That gave me a lot of like peace of mind. Just like, let it be. Classic. Let them, it's the classic theory. But
yeah. And what is our society in North America lacking the most? Personal responsibility. Yeah. And I think as a type 1 diabetic, we need to take personal responsibility for our health. For us, it's not a matter of really anything but life or death, right? So taking responsibility, taking ownership. Listen, like Austin, you were saying, you kind of ignored it when you were young because, let's be honest, to get deep into the psychology of it, no one wants to be different, right? Jack, you remember that one comment from that asshole that, by the way, when we see him, we'll kick his ass.
Yeah.
You remember that one comment of the guy going, that's not the only thing, Jack. Like those things, we don't forget those things. right? Those
I'll
moments
remember that
someone
forever.
said something. Yeah, you remember that. I mean, think of all the stuff people said to you over your life. That's one comment. How old were you, Jack, when he said that to you?
13, 14.
Yeah,
Young,
and
super impressionable. Like,
those are tough years anyways.
oh yeah. And growing
I
up
have a
with diabetes is
13-year-old.
so much harder.
Yeah, I have a 13-year-old turning 14. Those are tough years in general.
Yeah.
And you guys, because I got it later, you really had to think about those things. Who wants to be different?
Yeah.
I'll take some insulin later, right? It's like, so Austin, what are some tangible or atangible thing that our listeners can take with them as type 1 diabetics? Some systems or things that you do on a daily basis to stay in range as well as you do? Any tips, tricks, anything that, maybe they can take away on the way you do things that can be really helpful for them?
Yeah, for sure. The number one thing I'll always say to people is the hardest part of managing your diabetes is that there's no grand reward at the end of this, right? Like if you think about adulthood as a human being, so much of our adulthood is predicated and structured. If you think about it, you do good at work and you get a promotion or a raise. You do well at the gym and you have before and after pictures to show for that. School gives you a good grade and maybe your parents say congratulations on your report card. Social media gives us likes when we do something well. Diabetes is literally like, okay, and you're going to do this again tomorrow for the rest of your life. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that the reward in managing your diabetes is protecting a future version of yourself and being able to look back on your life and go, wow, like I gave myself the ultimate form of self-care. And a lot of it is choosing over and over again every single day to wake up, even though it is repetitive, it is expensive, it is frustrating, it is exhausting, and it is invisible to 99% of the population. It is choosing yourself over and over again. And the systems that I built to do that, working out, like I know it seemed a lot of people hate doing it, but we all have to do it. Like honestly, it's so good for your health beyond diet. Even if we weren't 3 diabetics on this call, I would say you should work out. It is good for your body. I said this to somebody recently. I love McDonald's pancakes. Stupid, but they're really high in carbs, but I love them. And they're all sugar. They're pure sugar. The only time I can eat them is the day after I went hard on a leg day, because the day after my insulin sensitivity is insane. Like it is, I can give half the amount of insulin and I stay in range. Versus even if I try all the strategies, doesn't work. Doesn't matter how long I pre-bolus, I will still spike. So number 1 is working out. Number 2 is taking a step back when I need to. Like again, 98% time in range, but you still need to give yourself moments to say, you know what, I want to sit in bed for 5 extra minutes rather than get up to worry about my numbers. So there can be a little bit of give and take. My last piece is don't expect perfection overnight. Everybody hears stuff like 98% and they're like, I'm at 30 right now.
Perfection is a fallacy. 98% is not perfection.
No. And with that, I say to people, you look at me at 98%, but you don't see the mental energy, the effort, all the crap behind the scenes that goes into that 98%. You hear the number and you go, I want that. But some people don't want that work, and that's fine. If you're happy at 75% or 70, be happy with that. But I started off at 10, and 10 didn't become 80 overnight. 10 became 11, which became 13, which became 15. And over the course of 2 years is how I got here. People need to stop being so hard on themselves when they hear a 98% and going, I want that. You do want that until you realize how much work, effort, and energy. Yeah. And everybody,
I think one of the biggest mindset shifts, perspective shifts that people can take away from this podcast too is like back in the day, I don't know dates, but like when you were wealthy, you were gluttonous. And for that reason, you were obese or you were fat, whatever. But in today's day and age, what are the ultra wealthy doing? They're doing what you literally just said. They're working out, they're eating super clean, like they're finding routine in their lives, which are letting them optimize for both health in the here and now and longevity. And like, as a diabetic in the beginning, for me, it's like, oh, like, woe is me. Like, this sucks. I hate managing this. Like, why? But now it's like, no, like, I basically fast tracked myself into that lifestyle. I have to work out. I have to eat clean. Like, I do saunas and cold plunges for my body. Like, there's so much stuff that I do to like bio optimize for a type 1 diabetic. But like, at the end of the day, that's what we all strive towards. So if anything, type 1 diabetes is a kick in the pants to like get on track, to be healthier in the here and now, but also to ensure yourself a really long life.
And then the one last thing I'll say is get like a little bit of variability, right? Like I like carbs personally, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. There are days where I'm like, it's just easier to be low carb. I'm at an event
Yeah.
all day today and I'm running around like a chimpanzee at the zoo. Like I'm not going to start giving like it's fine. Today's the day where I'm just going to choose to avoid a couple extra carbs so that I don't have as
Yeah.
much insulin on board. Does that make me a failure as a diabetic? Absolutely
Oh
not.
my God,
And
no.
3 days from now, I'll probably have those McDonald's pancakes, but today is not that day, right?
Yeah.
So you have to just accept the variability that comes with having diabetes. There are going to be great days, there's going to be bad days, but you have to adapt. And the more you're willing to adapt, the better off you will be.
Yeah. I eat pizza once a week, or I eat carbs, but
Yeah.
5 or 6 days of the week, I'm really dialed in with low carb. And I find that gives me better blood sugar control. But like, oh no, there's a time and a place for everything. And I think that if you're going to like stave yourself off of it altogether, that'll probably end up hurting you in the long run, you know?
They say that about dieting, right?
To like really sweet foods, or like this ultra longing for them, and like you finally get them, and it's like, yeah.
Well, they say that about dieting culture, right? If you cut back on everything you enjoy, you are going to eventually stop one day and start binging again because you miss those things. Like that's when I first started caring about my diabetes, I started like crying because I'm like, I can't eat a bagel ever again or a pancake. And now 2 years later, I'm like, dude, you're eating those things and you're totally fine. There's a lot of like scariness about having to change your entire lifestyle. But what I recognized was flipping a switch and going from eating all the things I loved, cake, cupcakes, not bolusing for it, and then just completely cutting them out is not realistic. So I will still have dessert from time to time. It's just a matter of I can't be having 16 cookies after dinner every night. But on the nights that I want to, sure, it's like a cheat day at the gym. Take that cheat day, have it.
Yeah, and also knowing where you are that day, right? If you're running up, getting high, that's not the time to add dessert, right?
No.
Because you add 80 grams of sugar on top of already running up, your life is over that night, right? So
Yeah.
if you're coming in and you're like right in range and everything's going great after that meal, that's the thing for all of us, is that adaptability, right? There is no one answer, right? There is no, take 3 units if I eat this. Because I remember when I was a new diabetic, because I was a little bit older, so I could I had a lot more like those deeper questions. And it's like, well, how many units do I take when I and the diabetes educator is like, there is no answer for that. You might take 10 units, you might take 2 units, right? It depends on what's going on. And I think for all of us, we know when the deck is stacked against us and we're just like done. We're not having any more food because we're still dealing with that last meal. And then you have those times where you're right in range and you're like, yeah, I can enjoy some dessert. I can add some ice cream in. We've all had, like, in America, we have Thanksgiving, right? It's like the worst holiday for diabetics.
Yeah.
And it's like what I've learned, if I just have one plate and then I don't eat again because it's just so ridiculous, that I'm fine. But if I go into that second plate, it's like my insulin can never catch up to all those carbs and fat. And then no matter how much insulin you give yourself, you're super high for like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
You both know how you feel in those times. You're dehydrated, you're frustrated.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to, yes, it's hard on the body, but I think it's more hard mentally, where you feel like, I did this to myself.
Yeah, that's the worst feeling.
How many times have we felt that way, guys?
I think at the end of the day, we all feel that. And there's like, community is the most valuable thing here, because like it's so refreshing to sit here with you two and talk about it. It's like, I'm not the only one who goes through this. We're like, I go through this in my own space, but like, I'm so glad I'm not the only one. Like, yeah, it's amazing what community can do.
And to your point, like, Kevin, if I'm high and I want to enjoy dessert, I give insulin like 45 minutes before I even touch the dessert. And a lot of people are like, that's crazy. But 45-minute pre-bolus, I'm basically giving myself insulin to go low so I can eat the cake. Like, that's essentially what the system is saying to me. Yeah, I'm hacking the system. But a lot of people are like, I don't want to wait the 45 minutes to enjoy that thing. And I get that. I totally do. But sometimes it's a matter of saying, you know what? I don't live a regular life. I want the cake. I can still have the cake. I just have to work a little bit harder, or go for a walk and then eat the cake, because I guarantee that insulin will work a lot better if you go for.
And that's huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
The movement. I have a dog.
Walking after a meal is insane. What a change.
So for dinner, let's say for dinner, I'm going to take 10 units of insulin. But if I know I'm going to walk the dog for 30 minutes after, just a very normal walk, I'll take 5 units. So I tell diabetics all the time, or people trying to lose weight and get control of their blood sugar, the hack for me is walking.
Yeah.
That movement cuts my insulin in half.
Nice.
And it's such a game changer, especially as you get a little bit older, the hormones start to change, your metabolism slows down. Now, I know, guys, I look like an underwear model, but that's not normal, right? So try
Yeah.
to think
No,
about
you're
it.
right.
But that walk after for me is a game changer. So Austin, Jack, I know we're coming up on time.
Yeah.
Here's what I learned. I want to mention a few things that I learned and then let Austin close it up with some thoughts. And then I'll pass to you, Jack, in a second. Here's what I learned. I've been a diabetic since 2008. I've never really pre-bolused, right? Like I'll be in the middle of dinner, I'll be halfway through dinner or dinner's over and I'm taking my insulin because it's like, whatever, I forgot, right? Or, hey, I'm halfway through my meal, let me take my insulin. But Austin, you saying you take that 20 minutes or whatever it is and you really prepare and pre-bolus, that's a huge takeaway that I'm going to take away from it. Jack, what about you?
Because I eat really low carb, I generally don't have to pre-bolus. Like I can have the insulin right as I'm eating, and then I'll probably end up giving myself another bolus about an hour and a half later of about the same amount. So like, let's say I'm having a pretty big like protein veggie meal. I'll do like 4 units at the start, and then an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I'll give myself another 4 units. But like, I'm generally trending in a really nice space. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like between like 4.5 and 10 is my sweet spot. When I start going like, in the 7s, in the 8s, in the 9s, I start going up. It's like, okay, give myself another bolus, and that allows me to sit still.
Because Jack injects Austin because we're both on a pump.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a different strategy for us.
Yeah. But I mean,
Same, different.
Again, it's like so nuanced with the amount of time that we have left. Like I couldn't even begin to get into like, when do I give myself insulin? Like post workout when I'm about to eat, like it's hard because like your blood sugar spike after you're doing like a lift, and then you have to like in 30 minutes they'll start to come down rapidly. So like if you give yourself insulin right away, you better be sure that 20 minutes later you're sitting down in front of that plate of food. But like if the server is taking too long and it takes 40 minutes, you're FUCKED. Like it's so nuanced.
Yeah.
So but for me, like 90% of the time I'm eating low carb, so it's just like small boluses as I'm eating and then after, and it's pretty simple. Austin.
Yeah, on pre-bolusing, just really quickly, so a couple things. If you're at a restaurant, my best piece of advice someone taught me: give like half the dose that you would give up front. Like give it before, like as you order. That way, if you are FUCK, they're taking this the slowest day ever. You at least only have half the amount of insulin you would actually need.
Yeah.
And then if it does come out early, well, at least you've got half of it working ahead of the schedule. Kevin, if you're at home and you're cooking, I always ask like my friend, whoever's cooking, myself, I say, is this going to be done in about 10 minutes? Yeah, it probably will be. And then I give myself insulin because I know that the food is going to be plated in about 10 minutes and I'm going to sit down to eat. So small little changes. One last thing is if you're scared of going low, my best advice, you have these alarms on your phone, set them higher. Mine are set at like 5.7, which is not low. It's nowhere even near low. But they're set higher because it gives me more time to react, right? If I'm going low at 5.7, I have plenty of margin of error to make up for it if I need to. Mm-hmm. So those are just my
people who have their alarms on in like the 3s. I'm like, what?
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, I'm like, and some people might be like alarm fatigue, whatever. I just silence it and move on. But at least I know I'm at that. Like, it doesn't really affect me.
I hate those damn alarms.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. I hate them. I get so many of them. They're annoying, but you learn to live with them because it's. I look at it as it's a warning system. It's like a tornado coming. This is my early warning system to tell me something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
And I guess the last thing to wrap it all up is I always use this quote with people because I think it's perfect for diabetes. The cost of failing with diabetes is the price of knowing. What I mean by that is every single time we try something and we fail, we learn for next time. A high isn't a failure. A low is not a failure. These are things that happen because we are diabetic. You cannot ever get rid of the highs and the lows. That is just part of this unfortunately, of this management. But what you can do is you can at least say to yourself, if I went low this time, I'm going to learn so it doesn't happen again, or be better prepared next time so I can stop the low from happening. And it's the same thing with highs. Every single time we go low or we go high, that is not failure. It is just the price of us knowing how to manage this the next time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to take a bit of time here, but it's like, what's the saying? Like, insanity is doing the same thing every time and expecting a different outcome. There have been so many times in my life where I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, you're insane. Like it's true though. And that honestly, like, I'm so glad you brought that up, Austin, because that for me really weighs on me and has weighed on me and will continue to. It's like I made the same mistake again. Why? Like,
That's the
I
hardest
knew
part.
the outcome would be different, but I think it's so hard because like then the time before when you did it right, it was perfect. But then you did
Yep.
the same thing the next time. Maybe there was a bit of nuance, like something had changed in your day to day, and then it doesn't work. That's such a good point. That's such a struggle.
Yeah.
It's that like I'm insane because I keep doing it, expecting a different outcome, and 50% of the time it works, and 50% of the time it doesn't work. So I
And I
think,
mentioned that earlier, Jack, right? I think that's the hardest part about being a diabetic.
yeah,
As we get to the 45-minute mark and close up is I
yeah,
think for most people they're going to hear it's the mental game,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I
And
think the mental
community,
game.
Austin, you hit it right away. There is
Yep.
nothing more valuable than having people to speak to. So to wrap,
Yep.
Austin, where can we reach you? If somebody is like, you know what, I really connected and I want to like, I don't know about you, Austin, but like we're both here and we're both open to chat. Anybody wants to chat, we're here for it. We have an email. It's somerarehumans@gmail.com. Please, people, reach out. We can even connect you to Austin if you want. But Austin, how do we reach you? Best way to
Yeah.
reach you?
I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Oz, so AUS_T1D, Oz like Australia, even though it's Austin. People always think I'm Australian. I'm like, you don't hear me in my videos, no accent. That doesn't give it away. If you're the Canadian sorries, every other word doesn't give it away. But Oz_T1D.
Okay,
T1D.
Oz T1D. Brother.
That's how legit Austin is. He's got his type 1 diabetes in his Instagram
He's
handle.
bad,
yeah.
so.
I love that.
Fully dedicated to this world of diabetes and the craziness that comes with.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Well, bro,
Well-
it's a pleasure having you on.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks, Austin. You were phenomenal and appreciate you coming on and spending that time with us. So,
Yeah, thanks
Jack,
for
you
having
want to close it up?
Yeah, that's it. We've closed.
Ultimate Humans Podcast in the books. Austin Scott, thank you, my friend. And
Having somebody on. Love it.
yeah, thanks, guys.
Bye.
me. Thank you.